Right, okay. So I thought today I'm going to carry on my tonal theme, and I thought I'd use either inks or watercolours for that. So got a couple of examples to show you. So this one is tonal painting just in watercolours. So this is just purely black and white, or black. So the white is all the white, the paper. There isn't any white paint. I don't think I did any masking there either. I think I was just, unless those bits might have been masked. But I think in general I tried to just leave gaps. So that's that one.
It's very effective.
It works, doesn't it? And, I brought that in just to really just show that you don't necessarily need colour, or you don't necessarily need very much colour.
Is it watercolour for it?
Yeah, this one's watercolour. So I just used black watercolour, and then the white, the paper. So, yeah, and I kind of did it might have been a part demonstration, but part just to see if I could do it and if it would work.
And I think it does.
And I think actually, if anybody's using watercolours or wants to learn watercolours, this is a fabulous exercise. And just working tonally, just trying to interpret whatever subject you're working in tonally. And you could, if you're working from a photograph, it could be a colour photograph, but if it's a photograph you've taken yourself, you might be able to find one of those filters on the phone or the camera that turns it black and white, in which case you then got a black and white version. And it will just really help you to master tonal values. So that's that one. This one is a mixture of watercolour, and I didn't particularly, this was more like just a quick sketch I did, which is down the end there. And this was mostly quite a lot of Indian ink and a dipper pen, and then some watercolour. But the watercolour washes are very, in terms of the colour, it's pretty minimal. So there's a bit of yellow in the sky, a sort of bluey, grey sort of wash there, tiny bit of green here. But again, it's pretty minimal. It really works as a tone. So I thought I'd just show you those two examples. So in terms of I've demonstrated the way I normally sketch quite a few times. So these would be sort of examples of that. This one is, that one is just using Tombow pens. So really just almost like drawing quite broadly. There aren't really any outlines to things here. I just basically popped in tones, and then drew in the highlights with white chalk or white pastel. These are how I also sketch lines, and then a little bit of Tombow to add some tone, and a bit of highlight. So I've done a few demonstrations of that. So I thought I'd just demonstrate more the dipper pens or the watercolour or the ink washes really. So they kind of had this in mind for Sid, who's not here, because Sid requested this. So hopefully you'll be watching the video, but he couldn't make it today. So the inks I've got, this one is an acrylic ink, and I think actually my Indian ink is pretty dried up, so I'm not going to attempt that one. But this one I must have bought a little while ago as an acrylic ink. So I think I probably mentioned this, but the difference really between, so with inks, you can get inks that are either waterproof once they dry, or they'll be water soluble once they're dry. So Chinese ink is water soluble, it always remains water soluble. And things like fountain pen ink, that would be water soluble. So you could put a line down, and then even when it's dry, if you put water over it, it will just bleed and that sort of thing. And that can, give you some nice effects. Acrylic ink or Indian ink, so this one's Indian ink and the other one's acrylic ink. I think this has got shellac in, do you know shellac, which is like vanilla varnish. I think that's how they used to make it, so that once it's down, it's kind of solid. Acrylic ink obviously is like plastic, so once that's dry, it's dry and it won't rehydrate. So these dipper pens, I've got a collection of these here if you want to have a go at these. Some work better than others. Sometimes they get a bit blunt and soft at the ends, and you just have to get out a standing knife and chop them up a bit. But these I've just made out of garden bamboo cane. So I think I've just cut them at an angle and then got a standing knife out, nice strong knife, and just sharpened a bit. They don't work very well vertically. I'll have a go. They're not, it's going to be a bit of a, that might, because there's so much ink on there. Oh yeah, I'm getting a line, but it's better really if you can get, if you can be at an angle, very slight angle or flat. Just because of gravity really, the nature of it. So I'm getting some lines there. It's starting to dry out already. So that's one quality you can have, is once your pen gets a little bit dry, you can get it to sort of pick up the texture of the paper a little bit, which can be quite nice. Like all these dried, or it gets slightly lighter. So the nice thing about these sort of dipper pens, rather than a mechanical pen, is that you can vary the lines just with you can a little bit with a mechanical pen, or I can use it on its side and get a very sharp line if I just use it on the edge of the. I mean, it could also sharpen them to a very wide. If I wanted a big wide mark, I could make one that side. So that's, a nice range of marks. I was just really inspired to have a go at these with looking at Van Gogh's drawings, and he did lots of these kind of reed pen drawings. I think some of that was when he run out of money and run out of paint, so he'd do a reed pen drawing instead. But I think they were really quite lovely. I almost prefer the Van Gogh drawings to the paintings sometimes. Sometimes I don't want them quite that colourful. But I really love the kind of graphic marks that he used. So again, you could, that's quite nice. Almost maybe on its side, just get a bit of texture. The other thing you can do is just dip it into water if you wanted like a lighter tone mark. So if I wanted something in the distance, that's a bit too light. You could make up a lighter wash in one of these or in a little jam jar. Yeah, that's going a bit lighter in it. So if you wanted some sort of lighter tone marks, you didn't want all the marks to be sort of strong, heavy. So again, that's quite nice to be able to do that. It's not working very well on the vertical, I'm afraid. Let's try it that way. Yeah. So you I'll do that. So that's using the dipper pens. I've also got there's a few feathers here, which you can try if you want. And there's nibs somewhere, unless I've lost the nibs. Oh no, yeah. So you can get these sort of dipper pen nibs, and I've got a couple of pen holders. I kind of prefer these myself. These give them, but if you needed a very sharp, fine line, you can make very fine lines out of those. So there's those there too. And then the other idea is to just use washes. What I've got here. Now I'm doing too much of a mess there. I'll make something out of easier. Really just building out the tones with a watercolour wash. I'll do this brush. That will do. Yep. So probably good to have a bit of scrap just to try it out on. Try it on there. That might be a little bit too. Let me make that a bit more water in there. In a way, it's good. This side of it could be quicker than making up a watercolour wash, possibly. But I could start off maybe with pale washes. So that watercolour I showed you to start with, I basically just built it up. Washes, sort of starting off with very pale washes, a bit like that, leaving gaps where I want the light to be. So it's kind of forcing me to look for areas of light and dark and just treat it in, rather than thinking trees and leaves, I'm just looking at light areas and dark areas. Perhaps leave a gap here. So you could let that dry. And then the advantage of this is once it's dry, it's not going to rehydrate when I put more washes over the top. It's going to stay put. So I'll use this one that I've already got a bit of ink on. So I kind of got to that stage with the other group. Either I could add some more, even just adding probably the same tone over the top will give me a slightly denser look. It's nice because you can just keep the ink really nice and fluid. And then if I wanted to go a little bit stronger, just make the wash a little bit stronger. Let's do a darker area. Places. Again, it's going to look better if you keep your drawings flat, like that. And then, I mean, you might sort of come up with 4 or 5 tones. Might be good. I think this one, the first one I showed you, you could really separate out perhaps 5 different tones. And then the darkest areas would be just using this neat, and just kind of keeping that really dark. Let's go with that a little bit darker. But it gives that, you know, you're keeping that nice transparent quality that you'd have with watercolours by keeping the paper showing through. These bits of blue that I've got in here, these are where I've added a bit of masking fluid. So basically it's paint it on. Are you all familiar with this or not? Yeah, so you're good. Yeah, so masking fluid there, and then, you know, once you want to take that off, just do that. Just got to make sure everything is really dry. So masking fluid on, really dry before you put washes on, then really dry before you try and take it off. That's the main thing. And then, you know, that might be just a tiny bit stark. I might want to leave some of that white, or just, you know, slightly tone that, which is what I've done with this bit here, just a tiny bit of shadow. So just kind of tweaking it a little bit. Sometimes it can just look like a hole in the paper. You just leave it pure white. You might want to just add a little bit of shadow.
Paul, is masking fluid, does it come in different colours?
Yeah, this one's.
I thought there was only one. I thought there was only one thing white.
This one's blue.
Oh, I didn't realise.
I don't know. I didn't think I liked it, but actually that's come out all right. And that has. The advantage of having a blue one is that you can see where it goes.
Yes,
yeah. Whereas the cream ones, sometimes or the white ones, it can be quite hard to see it. So that's why I bought this one. I think I thought the white. Well, this make is Vallejo, which is the Spanish make. The Winsor & Newton one, I thought maybe is a little bit better quality than this, but yeah, it seems it might be all right. To be honest, I've only ever used it doing these demos.
So if you use candle wax, you can't really see it.
You can't. No, you can't use it. You can't see it, but it does add a nice texture. So again, you could use a bit of candle wax because it picks up the texture of the paper. But again, you can't see it, so you've got to really plan that out carefully. Maybe even a few pencil lines first.
Yeah.
Just plan that out where that's going to go. Yeah, but yeah, can look. I think things with the watercolor washes or the ink washes, kind of letting them just stay, you know, leaving some of the qualities of the marks, not trying to refine everything. Maybe use a few blobs and a few, you know, rough old bits, and sometimes it adds to the life of it. Really, I think being too careful with watercolors, they can lose their liveliness very quickly. So sometimes sort of setting yourself maybe a time limit or something like that, or going outside and just drawing for an hour or so or something like that can work quite well.
Well, if you use candle wax, you don't take it off usually, do you?
No, it stays put. So you've got to absolutely know. Yeah, so it's only given with the absolute. You can't do anything like this. Go back in and paint little bits over the top. Yeah. Whereas with this, sometimes if you've got like a field of daisies here, you could just do lots of dots and maybe paint in the middle, the yellows in the middles or whatever you want to do. Or a few shadows on the daisies, but yeah, with candle wax, that is it really. I quite like it, maybe a little bit of sky, a bit of texture in the clouds or something, but yeah, it's just a bit more limited.
Okay.
That okay? So if you want to use any of these pens, or as I say, this ink seems to be okay. This one, I think you might get away with it, but I think it's getting a bit. I think I need to buy a new bottle of these, separating out things. And the other ones aren't great. So, but that I think I bought fairly recently. So that kind of brownish acrylic ink seems to be okay. I'm not sure about the stopper though. I think the stopper's leaking. It's one of those squeegee ones, and I had it in the studio, and I think the temperature has destroyed it. But yeah, that's the filter. Great. Thanks.